How to Learn Anything Faster, written and published by audiobook lovers. Imagine you could learn anything faster without feeling overwhelmed or stuck. What if you could absorb new skills, master new subjects, and unlock your potential in ways that you never thought possible? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. You see, learning doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to take years to master something new. What you need is the right approach, the right mindset, and the tools that actually work to help you learn faster and retain more. Now, I'm not talking about tricks or shortcuts. I'm talking about practical, science-backed methods that will genuinely transform the way you learn. These are the same strategies that high performers, successful entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners use to excel in any area of life. Whether you're looking to learn a new language, pick up a musical instrument, or just become more efficient at picking up new skills in general, this is going to change the game for you. Stick with me here, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to tap into your brain's full potential, make the most of your time, and speed up your learning in ways you've never experienced before. This isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. We're going to unlock the secret to learning faster, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can start applying these techniques in your everyday life. Ready to dive in and start learning faster than ever before? Let's go. Imagine you could learn anything faster without feeling overwhelmed or stuck. What if you could absorb new skills, master new subjects, and unlock your potential in ways that you never thought possible? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. You see, learning doesn't have to be a struggle. It doesn't have to take years to master something new. What you need is the right approach, the right mindset, and the tools that actually work to help you learn faster and retain more. Now, I'm not talking about tricks or shortcuts. I'm talking about practical, science-backed methods that will genuinely transform the way you learn. These are the same strategies that high performers, successful entrepreneurs, and lifelong learners use to excel in any area of life. Whether you're looking to learn a new language, pick up a musical instrument, or just become more efficient at picking up new skills in general, this is going to change the game for you. Stay with me here, because by the end of this video, you're going to know exactly how to tap into your brain's full potential, make the most of your time, and speed up your learning in ways you've never experienced before. This isn't about working harder, it's about working smarter. We're going to unlock the secret to learning faster, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can start applying these techniques in your everyday life. Ready to dive in and start learning faster than ever before? Let's go. Chapter 1: Rewiring your brain for learning. Rewiring your brain for learning is not some mystical process reserved for geniuses or monks sitting atop mountains. It's the most practical, real-world skill you could ever develop, and it holds the power to change your entire life. Imagine if you could absorb information effortlessly, retain knowledge longer, and master new skills faster than ever before. What would that do for you? Think about the doors it would open, the opportunities, the confidence, the control over your future. Because here's the truth, your brain is not fixed. It is adaptable, flexible, and wired to evolve. You are not limited by your current abilities. You are only limited by your understanding of how to unlock them, and that's exactly what we're about to do. Most people think learning is about memorizing information, but that's like trying to win a marathon by walking in circles. Real learning, learning that transforms you, happens when you train your brain to think differently. Your mind is like a living, breathing network of electrical circuits. Every time you learn something new, your brain physically changes. It builds new neural connections, strengthens existing pathways, and rewires itself based on how you use it. This means that if you've struggled with learning in the past, it wasn't because you weren't smart enough. It was because you weren't training your brain the right way. The good news, you can start today. The first step is to understand that your brain is a machine designed for survival. It prioritizes efficiency, meaning it defaults to whatever patterns you've repeated the most. If you've spent years procrastinating, avoiding challenges, or believing that you're bad at learning, your brain has built strong pathways reinforcing those habits. But if you start practicing deep focus, curiosity, and persistence, your brain will adapt. It will literally rewire itself to make learning easier for you. That's why the most successful people aren't necessarily the ones with the highest IQs. They are the ones who have trained their brains to embrace discomfort, push through frustration, and thrive in the process of learning. So, how do you rewire your brain? You start by breaking the cycle of passive consumption. Most people absorb information without engaging with it. They read a book, watch a video, or listen to a podcast, but they don't truly process what they've learned. Their brain treats it like background noise. The key to rewiring your brain is active learning, challenging yourself to explain concepts in your own words, applying new knowledge immediately, and testing yourself regularly. Instead of just reading, take notes by summarizing key points in your own way. Instead of just watching a tutorial, practice what you've learned right away. Your brain responds to effort. The more you engage with a subject, the deeper those neural connections become. There's another powerful tool that most people overlook: visualization. Your brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences. If you mentally rehearse learning a skill, your brain begins forming the pathways as if you had already practiced it physically. This is why elite athletes visualize their performances before stepping onto the field. They are literally training their brains before their bodies ever move. The same principle applies to learning anything. Before studying, take a few moments to visualize yourself fully engaged, understanding the material easily, and applying it effortlessly. Your brain will begin to align itself with that reality. Now let's talk about one of the biggest barriers to learning: distractions. Your brain is constantly bombarded with information, and every time you switch tasks, you weaken your ability to focus deeply. If you've ever struggled with concentration, it's not because you just aren't good at focusing, it's because your brain has been trained to be scattered. The solution is to create an environment that eliminates distractions and maximizes deep work. Put your phone in another room, use noise-canceling headphones, and set a dedicated time block where your only task is to learn. At first, your brain will resist. It will crave the quick dopamine hit of checking your phone or switching to another task. But if you push through, you'll strengthen your ability to focus, and learning will become easier than ever. There's another truth about your brain that most people never realize: it thrives on challenge. If something feels difficult, that doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. Your brain strengthens itself through struggle. This is called neuroplasticity, and it's the reason why anyone can get better at anything with enough effort. When you encounter something hard, don't back away, lean into it. Struggle is not the enemy, it's the signal that you're learning at the highest level. Rewiring your brain also requires one of the most underrated skills in the world: patience. We live in an era of instant gratification, but learning doesn't work that way. If you expect to master something overnight, you will always feel like you're failing. But if you commit to small, consistent improvements, you will build unstoppable momentum. The best learners in the world don't chase quick results. They focus on getting 1% better every single day. Over time, those small improvements compound into mastery. Think about the skills you've always wanted to learn. Maybe you want to become fluent in another language, develop a new career skill, or finally get in shape. Whatever it is, you have the ability to do it. Not because you're naturally gifted, but because your brain is designed to change when you push it. The only thing standing between you and that skill is how you train your mind. Are you willing to embrace discomfort, eliminate distractions, and engage deeply? Are you willing to push through frustration and challenge yourself every day? If so, there is no limit to what you can achieve. Here's the most important lesson. Your brain will become whatever you repeatedly do. If you tell yourself that you're bad at learning, your brain will prove you right. If you tell yourself that you're capable of mastering anything, your brain will work in your favor. The choice is yours. You don't need more talent, more intelligence, or more luck. You need better habits. You need to engage with learning like it's the most important thing in the world. Because it is. From this moment forward, start training your brain with intention. Approach every learning session as if your future depends on it, because in many ways it does. The ability to learn is the most powerful skill you can develop, and you have full control over how far you take it. So commit, apply what you've learned here. Push yourself, and watch as your mind transforms in ways you never thought possible. The path to mastery isn't reserved for a select few. It's available to anyone willing to put in the work. The question is, are you? Chapter 2. The Myth of Instant Mastery. Mastery is not an overnight event. It's not a lucky break, a single moment of genius, or some secret formula hidden away from the masses. It is the result of relentless, disciplined effort over time. But in today's world, where everything is built around speed and convenience, most people have been conditioned to expect instant results. They want to learn a language in a week, build a business in a month, or become a master at a skill after watching a few YouTube tutorials. And when reality doesn't match their expectations, they quit. They assume they weren't naturally talented, or that they just don't have what it takes. That belief is the very thing holding them back. Because the truth is, mastery isn't something you stumble upon. It's something you earn. Most people never achieve true mastery in anything, not because they lack intelligence, but because they don't have the patience to go through the process. The process is uncomfortable. It's frustrating. It's slow. And that's exactly why so many people fall into the trap of believing in shortcuts. They look at an expert performing at the highest level and assume that success came easily to them. But what they don't see are the endless hours of struggle, the moments of self-doubt, and the countless failures that built that mastery. Every master was once a beginner drowning in uncertainty. Every great musician once played out-of-tune notes. Every best-selling author once stared at a blank page, doubting whether they could even write a single sentence worth reading. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't has nothing to do with talent. It has everything to do with persistence. When you chase instant mastery, you set yourself up for disappointment. Because the moment you realize it doesn't work that way, you lose motivation. You start believing that maybe this skill just isn't for you. But here's what you need to understand. Frustration is not a sign that you should quit. Frustration is the evidence that you are learning. It means your brain is in the process of rewiring itself, adapting to new challenges, and building the connections needed to master something. If you never feel challenged, if you never struggle, it means you're not growing. That's why the people who embrace the discomfort of learning, rather than avoiding it, are the ones who achieve true mastery. There is a mindset shift that separates high achievers from those who give up too soon. Instead of asking, how fast can I learn this? Start asking, how deep can I go into this? The people who become the best at what they do aren't focused on speed, they're focused on depth. They don't care how long it takes, they care about truly understanding their craft. If you take that approach, something powerful happens. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop feeling impatient. You stop looking for shortcuts. And instead you start focusing on real improvement. You start building a foundation so strong that no amount of setbacks can shake it. That's when mastery becomes inevitable. There's another dangerous illusion that holds people back, the idea that once you reach a certain level, you won't struggle anymore. That's a lie. Mastery is not a destination. It's not a final stage where everything becomes easy. Even the best in the world constantly push themselves beyond their limits. They continue failing, experimenting, and evolving. The difference is, they don't see struggle as a problem, they see it as a necessary part of progress. If you want to achieve mastery in anything, you must fall in love with the process itself. You have to enjoy the practice, the repetition, the small improvements that no one else notices. Because if you don't, you'll never make it through the hard parts. The best athletes in the world don't just love winning, they love training. The best musicians don't just love performing, they love practicing. The best writers don't just love publishing books, they love the daily grind of writing, rewriting, and refining their work. That's what separates the great from the average. It's not some magical talent. It's their relationship with the process. They are willing to endure boredom. They are willing to repeat the same exercises hundreds, even thousands of times. And because of that, they eventually reach a level that seems almost superhuman to everyone else. If you truly want to master something, you have to detach from the outcome and commit to the process. That means setting aside your obsession with speed and focusing on consistency. If you practice a skill for 2 hours today and then do nothing for the next week, you won't improve. But if you practice for just 30 minutes every single day without fail, you will build unstoppable momentum. Small, consistent efforts over time always win against sporadic bursts of effort. The brain learns best through repetition, not intensity. The people who master their craft are the ones who show up every day, no matter how they feel. Even when they're tired, even when they're uninspired, even when they don't see immediate progress. They keep going, and that's why they succeed. There's a simple but powerful exercise that will change the way you approach learning. The next time you feel frustrated with a skill, remind yourself of the bigger picture. Ask yourself, if I keep improving at just 1% every day, where will I be in a year? That's 365% better than where you are now. Imagine if you stuck with that skill for 5 years. Where would you be? Most people never think that far ahead. They want results now, and if they don't get them, they move on to something else. But the people who are willing to play the long game, they are the ones who achieve the kind of success that others only dream about. The truth about mastery is this: you don't need to be extraordinary. You don't need to be naturally talented. You don't need to be the smartest person in the room. What you need is patience. What you need is the ability to endure the discomfort of slow progress without losing motivation. What you need is the willingness to show up, day after day, when no one is watching, when no one is praising you, when there is no immediate reward in sight, because that is what separates those who truly master something from those who simply wish they could. The next time you start learning something new, remind yourself that there is no finish line. There is no point where the struggle disappears, and that's a good thing. Because if mastery were easy, it wouldn't be valuable. The fact that it's hard, is exactly what makes it worth pursuing. The question isn't whether or not you can achieve mastery. The question is, are you willing to pay the price for it? Because if you are, then nothing, not time, not failure, not frustration, can stop you from becoming great. Chapter 3: The Power of Focused Learning. Most people live their entire lives distracted. They wake up and immediately check their phones, letting a flood of notifications, messages, and social media updates hijack their minds before they've even had a chance to think for themselves. Their attention is constantly pulled in 100 different directions: emails, texts, endless scrolling through short-form content designed to keep them hooked but never truly engaged. And then they wonder why they struggle to learn new skills, why they can't stay focused for more than a few minutes, why they feel overwhelmed, scattered, and unproductive. The truth is, in a world filled with noise, the ability to focus is one of the most powerful skills you can develop. If you can learn how to truly concentrate, you can master anything. The biggest mistake people make when trying to learn something new is thinking they need more time. They believe that if only they had an extra hour in their day, they would finally be able to study, practice, or develop a new skill. But the problem isn't time. The problem is focus. You don't need more hours in the day. You need to make the hours you already have more effective. Someone who studies with deep, undivided attention for 1 hour will learn more than someone who passively reviews information for 5. Focus is what separates those who make rapid progress from those who stay stuck in a cycle of frustration. It's not about how much time you spend, it's about how well you use it. There's a reason why some people seem to achieve incredible results in a short amount of time, while others struggle for years without making any real progress. It's not because they're naturally gifted, it's because they understand the power of focused learning. When they sit down to practice, they are fully present, they eliminate distractions. They dive deep into the material, engaging with it in a way that forces their brain to absorb and retain it. They are not just passively consuming information, they are actively wrestling with it, breaking it down, applying it, and making it their own. Most people don't do this. They try to multitask. They listen to a podcast while scrolling through their phone. They watch an educational video while replying to messages. They try to study in a noisy environment, thinking they can tune it out. But the human brain doesn't work that way. Multitasking is a myth. Every time you switch your attention from one thing to another, you lose momentum. Your brain has to reload the context, refocus, and re-engage. It might only take a few seconds, but those seconds add up. And more importantly, it keeps you from reaching a state of deep concentration, the state where real learning happens. Think about the last time you were so deeply immersed in something that you lost track of time. Maybe it was a book, a game, a project, or a conversation. That state, where the world around you fades away and you are completely locked in, is called flow. It is the most powerful mental state for learning, creativity, and high performance. And yet, most people rarely experience it because they never give themselves the chance. They are constantly interrupting their own focus, breaking their own momentum, and wondering why they can't seem to get anywhere. If you want to learn anything at an elite level, you must train your brain to focus. That means setting up an environment where distractions don't exist. That means putting your phone on airplane mode, closing unnecessary tabs, and creating a space where your mind can fully engage with what you're trying to learn. It means learning how to sit with discomfort, because real focus is not always easy. Your brain will resist at first. It will crave quick hits of dopamine from notifications and entertainment. It will look for excuses to check your messages, take a break, or do something easier. But if you push through that initial resistance, something amazing happens. Your brain adapts. Your ability to concentrate strengthens, and suddenly the thing that once felt impossible becomes effortless. The people who rise to the top in any field are not the ones with the most talent, they are the ones with the most focus. They are the ones who can sit down and do the work, day after day, without letting distractions pull them away. They are the ones who can lock in so deeply that they absorb information faster, process it more efficiently, and retain it longer than anyone else. That is their advantage, and it can be yours too, if you're willing to train for it. Most people don't realize that focus is a skill. They assume that some people are just naturally better at concentrating than others. But that's not true. Focus is something you can build, just like a muscle. And just like building muscle, it requires consistent training. You have to start small, just like you would in the gym. If you've been living in a state of constant distraction, you can't expect to suddenly sit down and focus for 3 hours straight. Your brain isn't conditioned for it yet. But you can start with just 15 minutes of deep, undistracted work. Then push it to 30, then an hour. The more you train, the stronger your focus becomes. Imagine what would happen if for just 1 month, you committed to deep focus. Imagine if, instead of wasting time checking your phone every few minutes, you dedicated that energy to truly mastering a skill. Imagine if, instead of being pulled in a dozen different directions, you locked in on one thing and gave it your full attention. Where would you be in 30 days? How much could you learn? How much further ahead would you be than everyone else still stuck in distraction? The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It's the ability to focus. If you want to gain an edge in life, master this one skill. Train yourself to focus, and you will accelerate your learning, outwork your competition, and achieve results that seem impossible to most people. Because while everyone else is distracted, jumping from one thing to the next, never really making progress, you will be locked in, getting better, getting smarter, and moving closer to mastery every single day. The ability to focus is your superpower. Use it wisely. Chapter 4. The Ritual of Curiosity. There is one thing that separates people who achieve extraordinary results from those who stay stuck in the same cycle of mediocrity for years. It's not intelligence. It's not talent. It's not luck. It's curiosity. The moment you stop being curious, you stop growing. The moment you stop asking questions, stop exploring, stop pushing the boundaries of what you know, your progress comes to a halt. But if you can reignite that sense of curiosity, the kind you had as a child when everything was new, exciting, and full of wonder, you unlock a level of learning that most people will never experience. Curiosity is the fuel that drives the greatest minds in history. It's the reason why some people never settle for average, why they keep learning, keep evolving, keep expanding their knowledge long after others have given up. The most successful people in the world aren't necessarily the ones who know the most. They're the ones who are obsessed with learning more. They ask better questions. They dig deeper. They don't just accept things at face value. They challenge ideas. They seek to understand, and they never stop exploring. That's what makes them different. That's what gives them an edge. But here's the truth. Most people lose their curiosity as they get older. Not because they want to, but because the world conditions them to. When you were a child, you were naturally curious. You asked questions constantly. You wanted to know how things worked, why things were the way they were. But then, as you grew up, you were told to stop asking so many questions. You were told to follow the rules, memorize the answers, and stick to what's already been figured out. Over time, that curiosity faded. Learning became something you had to do instead of something you wanted to do. And that's when everything changed. Most people associate learning with school, and because their experience of learning was rigid, forced and uninspiring, they assume that's just how it is. They believe that learning is difficult, that it requires discipline and willpower, that it's something they should do but don't necessarily enjoy. And so they stop. They stick to what they already know. They stay within their comfort zones, and they never push themselves to go beyond what feels familiar. They don't realize that learning isn't supposed to feel like a chore. It's supposed to feel like an adventure. The most powerful way to learn anything is to turn it into something you're genuinely curious about. When you're curious, learning stops feeling like effort. It becomes effortless. You don't have to force yourself to study or practice. You want to. You don't have to struggle to stay focused. Your mind locks in automatically. That's because curiosity activates the brain's reward system. When you're deeply interested in something, your brain releases dopamine, the same chemical associated with pleasure and motivation. That's why you can spend hours diving into a topic you love and not even notice the time passing. That's why people who are obsessed with something learn at an insanely fast rate. They're not just passively absorbing information, they're chasing it, exploring it, connecting the dots, and making it their own. Think about the last time you got completely lost in learning something. Maybe it was a new skill, a new hobby, a deep dive into a subject you found fascinating. You weren't forcing yourself to learn, you were drawn to it. You wanted to figure it out. You wanted to understand how it worked. That's what true learning feels like. And that's the kind of learning that leads to mastery. But most people never experience that, because they've forgotten how to be curious. They've been trained to believe that learning is something external, something that happens when a teacher explains things to them, something they have to do instead of something they get to do. But the best learners, the ones who truly master anything, don't wait to be taught. They go out and explore. They seek out knowledge on their own. They follow their curiosity like a trail of breadcrumbs, leading them deeper and deeper into understanding. If you want to learn anything at an elite level, you have to rekindle that curiosity. You have to start asking questions again. You have to stop accepting things at face value and start digging deeper. Instead of just memorizing information, ask yourself why it matters. Instead of just reading a book, engage with it, challenge it, apply it, test it in the real world. When you hear something new, don't just take it as truth. Ask yourself how it connects to what you already know. Ask yourself how you can use it, how you can experiment with it, how you can make it a part of your life. The more questions you ask, the more engaged your brain becomes, and the more engaged your brain is, the faster you learn. The difference between those who struggle to learn and those who seem to pick things up effortlessly isn't intelligence, it's engagement. The more engaged you are, the more your brain is forced to work, to process, to connect ideas in ways that stick. That's why passive learning, just reading, just listening, just watching, never works as well as active learning. You have to interact with what you're learning. You have to play with it, experiment with it, test it out. That's what makes it stick. That's what transforms information into knowledge. Most people will never take advantage of this. They will continue to approach learning the same way they always have, passively, half-heartedly, without curiosity, without engagement. They will continue to struggle, to forget things as soon as they learn them, to feel frustrated by how slow their progress is. But you don't have to be like most people. You can take a different approach. You can choose to make learning something exciting again. You can choose to follow your curiosity, to dive deep, to explore with a sense of adventure. Imagine what would happen if, Instead of forcing yourself to learn, you made learning something you couldn't wait to do. Imagine if, instead of struggling to remember things, they just stuck because you were so engaged that they became a part of you. Imagine if, instead of learning feeling like a burden, it became something that energized you, something that made you feel more alive. That's what happens when you embrace curiosity. That's what happens when you turn learning into a game, into a challenge, into something that excites you. The people who go the furthest in life, the ones who rise to the top of their fields, the ones who achieve mastery at an elite level, all have one thing in common: they never stop being curious. They never stop exploring. They never stop asking questions. They don't just learn because they have to. They learn because they want to, because they're fascinated, because they're obsessed with figuring things out. That's what gives them an edge. That's what allows them to grow at a rate that others can't keep up with. And the best part, you can do the exact same thing. You don't need to be smarter than anyone else. You don't need to have more time, more resources, or more talent. You just need to be more curious. You just need to start asking better questions, diving deeper, engaging more fully. Because the moment you do that, the moment you flip that switch in your mind, learning stops feeling like effort. It becomes effortless. It becomes something you crave, something you love, something that pulls you forward every single day. And once you reach that point, there is no limit to what you can learn. There is no limit to what you can achieve. Chapter 5. Active engagement. The key to retention. It's not just about what you know, it's about how you engage with what you know. It's not about how much information you collect, it's about how deeply you absorb it. Most people spend their lives passively consuming information, reading books, watching videos, listening to lectures, but never truly internalizing what they learn. They mistake exposure for mastery. They assume that just because they heard something once, they understand it. But real learning doesn't happen when you just listen. Real learning happens when you actively engage with the material, when you make it a part of you, when you apply it in the real world until it becomes second nature. The biggest mistake people make when trying to learn something new is assuming that repetition alone will make them better. They read the same material over and over, they watch the same lessons again and again, hoping that somehow through sheer exposure, the knowledge will stick. But the brain doesn't work that way. Just because you've seen something before doesn't mean you've actually learned it. The human mind needs to be challenged. It needs to struggle. It needs to be forced to think, to recall, to apply, to make mistakes, and to refine. That's how real learning happens. That's what separates people who truly master a subject from those who just memorize facts. Think about how children learn. They don't just listen passively, they interact with their environment. They touch, they feel, they ask questions, they experiment. They don't just accept things at face value, they test them. They see what happens when they push a button, when they mix colors, when they stack objects. And in the process, they develop a deep, instinctive understanding of how things work. That's the approach you need to take if you want to learn at an elite level. You have to be active, you have to engage, you have to challenge yourself, instead of just sitting back and consuming information. One of the most powerful ways to do this is by forcing yourself to recall what you've learned without looking at your notes, without referring to any external material. This is known as active recall, and it's been proven to be one of the most effective methods for deep learning. Instead of just rereading information, close your book and try to explain what you just learned from memory. Instead of passively watching a video, pause it and summarize the key points out loud. Instead of just taking notes, challenge yourself to recreate those notes from scratch. The act of retrieving information strengthens your brain's ability to retain it. Every time you force yourself to recall something, you're reinforcing the neural connections that make that knowledge stick. Most people avoid this kind of effort because it feels uncomfortable. It's much easier to just reread a book or re-watch a video than it is to try to recall the information without help. But that discomfort is exactly what makes active engagement so powerful. When your brain struggles, it grows. When you're forced to think deeply, to work hard, to retrieve knowledge on your own, you create stronger, more durable memories. That's why people who actively engage with what they learn retain it for years, while those who passively consume information forget it within days. Another way to fully engage with what you're learning is to teach it to someone else. If you can't explain an idea clearly, it means you don't truly understand it. The act of teaching forces you to simplify complex concepts, to organize your thoughts, and to fill in any gaps in your understanding. When you explain something to another person, you're forced to clarify your thinking in a way that makes sense. You're forced to process the information at a much deeper level than if you were just reading or listening. The greatest minds in history have understood this. The most brilliant scientists, philosophers, and leaders weren't just people who absorbed knowledge, they were people who engaged with it, challenged it, experimented with it, and explained it in their own way. Albert Einstein once said, "If you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough." That's because true mastery isn't about how much you know, it's about how well you can apply and communicate what you know. But engaging with knowledge isn't just about recall and teaching, it's also about real-world application. You don't truly understand a concept until you've used it, until you've applied it in a meaningful way, until you've tested it against reality. Think about learning a language. You can memorize vocabulary words all day long, but until you actually start speaking, until you put yourself in situations where you have to use what you've learned, your progress will be limited. The same is true for any skill, any subject, any area of learning. Knowledge that isn't applied is wasted. If you want to learn anything at an elite level, you have to take what you're learning and put it into practice. The reason most people fail to reach mastery is that they stay in the comfort zone of passive learning. They read without questioning. They watch without practicing. They listen without applying, and as a result they never truly own the knowledge. They remain stuck in a cycle of consuming information without ever making it a part of them. But the people who truly excel, the ones who seem to learn faster than everyone else, the ones who retain what they learn and apply it effortlessly, all have one thing in common. They engage with what they learn at the deepest level possible. They don't just consume, they create. They don't just listen, they interact. They don't just memorize, they practice. They teach, they experiment. They take learning beyond the theoretical and make it a part of their reality. Imagine how much faster you could learn if you made this shift. Imagine if, instead of just reading about success, you started applying what you learned immediately. Imagine if, instead of just watching tutorials, you forced yourself to practice in real time. Imagine if, instead of just taking notes, you challenged yourself to recreate those notes from memory, to explain the concepts in your own words, to teach them to someone else. That one shift alone would accelerate your learning more than any traditional method ever could. The truth is, your ability to learn isn't limited by intelligence. It's not about talent. It's not about genetics. It's about how you approach the process. If you engage deeply, if you challenge yourself, If you force your brain to work instead of just passively absorbing information, you can learn anything at a level most people never will. You can become an expert in any field. You can master any skill. You can take your knowledge and turn it into real-world results. But it starts with a decision to stop being passive and start being active. A decision to stop just consuming and start engaging. A decision to step out of your comfort zone, to embrace the struggle, to challenge yourself to learn in a way that actually sticks. Because once you do that, once you make that shift, once you start applying these principles, everything changes. Your ability to learn explodes. Your progress accelerates. And you start seeing results that most people only dream about. Chapter 6. The Art of Failing Forward. Most people don't realize this, but failure isn't the enemy of success. It's the very foundation of it. The people who achieve the highest levels of mastery in any field aren't the ones who avoid failure. They're the ones who embrace it, learn from it, and use it as a tool to get better. The greatest mistake you can make is to see failure as something that defines you, something that proves you're not good enough. The truth is, failure is feedback. It's your greatest teacher. Every mistake, every setback, every challenge you face isn't a sign to stop. It's a sign that you're growing, stretching, and moving beyond your limits. Most people quit the moment they experience failure. They try something new, they struggle, they don't see immediate results, and they convince themselves that they're not talented, not smart enough, not capable. They walk away because they assume that struggling means they're not meant for it. But the reality is, struggling is proof that you're in the process of learning. It's the discomfort of breaking through old limitations, of rewiring your brain, of forcing yourself into new territory. If you avoid failure, you avoid growth. If you fear mistakes, you fear progress. The people who truly succeed aren't the ones who never fail. They're the ones who fail over and over again, but refuse to let that failure stop them. Look at anyone who has mastered a skill, built a successful career, or achieved something great, and you'll see the same pattern. They didn't start as experts. They weren't born with some special ability that made them instantly good. They started just like you, uncertain, unskilled, struggling to find their way. But the difference is, they kept going. They kept pushing through the frustration. They kept learning from their failures instead of running from them. And over time, failure became their greatest advantage. Every mistake revealed something they needed to improve. Every setback forced them to refine their approach. Every challenge strengthened their resilience. Think about a child learning to walk. They don't analyze every step. They don't overthink. They don't get discouraged when they fall. They just get up and try again. No child gives up after falling a few times. They don't sit there and say, "Well, I guess walking isn't for me." They keep going, they adjust, they learn, and eventually walking becomes effortless. But as adults, we forget this process. We start believing that failure is a sign to stop, instead of a signal to adjust and keep moving forward. The truth is, every time you fail, you are one step closer to success. The problem isn't failure itself, it's how you interpret it. If you see failure as proof that you're not good enough, you'll give up. But if you see failure as proof that you're in the process of growing, you'll keep going. You'll extract the lesson, adjust your approach, and come back stronger. This is what separates people who succeed from those who never get past the starting line. The best way to accelerate your learning is to lean into failure, to deliberately put yourself in situations where mistakes are inevitable, and to use those mistakes as stepping stones to mastery. The faster you fail, the faster you improve. The more you experiment, the more you refine your skills. The more you challenge yourself, the more your brain adapts. If you avoid difficult situations, if you only do what feels safe and comfortable, you'll never grow. But if you take on challenges, if you willingly embrace the discomfort of learning something new, you will develop a level of skill and understanding that most people never reach. The key is to develop a mindset where failure doesn't break you, it builds you. When you experience setbacks, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this teaching me?" Instead of seeing mistakes as something to be ashamed of, see them as proof that you're taking action. The only real failure is refusing to try. The only real loss is walking away before you've given yourself a chance to succeed. People who master anything, whether it's business, sports, music, or any other field, do so because they have trained themselves to see failure as part of the process. They don't take it personally. They don't let it define them. They extract the lesson, they make adjustments, and they keep going. They fail forward. Look at any great success story, and you'll see the same pattern. Thomas Edison, before inventing the light bulb, failed thousands of times. But he didn't see those failures as wasted effort. He famously said, "I have not failed, I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Imagine if he had stopped at the first sign of failure. Imagine if he had walked away, convinced that he wasn't meant to succeed. The world would be a very different place. Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, was cut from his high school team. He could have given up. He could have let that failure define him. But instead he used it as fuel. He trained harder. He refined his skills. He turned that failure into a reason to push himself to become the best. He once said, "I have missed more than 9,000 shots in my career. I have lost almost 300 games. On 26 occasions, I have been trusted to take the game-winning shot, and I missed. I have failed over and over and over again in my life. And that is why I succeed." Success isn't about avoiding failure, it's about learning how to fail in a way that moves you forward. Every time you try and fail, you learn something new. Every time you fall short, you gain experience. Every setback is an opportunity to refine your approach. If you can develop the mindset that failure isn't the end of the road but part of the journey, you will be unstoppable. The people who struggle the most with learning aren't the ones who lack intelligence or talent. They're the ones who are afraid to fail. They never push past their comfort zones. They never challenge themselves enough to grow. They never allow themselves to struggle. And as a result, they stay stuck. But those who embrace failure, who use it as fuel, who see it as a natural part of the learning process, they're the ones who rise. They're the ones who develop skills faster. They're the ones who reach their full potential. The next time you experience failure, instead of retreating, lean into it. Study what went wrong. Extract the lesson. Adjust your approach. And keep moving forward. The more you do this, the more resilient you become. The more resilient you become, the more unstoppable you are. Every mistake is a stepping stone. Every setback is a lesson in disguise. And every failure is proof that you are one step closer to success. So fail boldly. Fail often. Fail forward. Because the more you embrace failure, the more you accelerate your learning. And the more you accelerate your learning, the closer you get to mastery. Chapter 7. Leverage your environment. Everything around you is shaping you, whether you realize it or not. The people you talk to, the places you spend time in, the books you read, the conversations you engage in, even the thoughts that dominate your mind. All of these things are molding your reality, influencing your beliefs, and either fueling your growth or holding you back. And when it comes to learning, your environment is either working for you or against you. The difference between those who struggle to develop new skills and those who master them quickly isn't just intelligence or talent, it's the way they set up their environment to maximize focus, motivation, and consistency. Imagine trying to run a marathon while dragging a heavy weight behind you. That's what most people do when they try to learn something new in an environment filled with distractions, negativity, and mental clutter. They try to force themselves to focus in a space that constantly pulls them away from deep work. They surround themselves with people who drain their energy instead of pushing them forward. They expose their minds to information that doesn't serve them, filling their thoughts with noise instead of knowledge. And then they wonder why learning feels like an uphill battle. But the truth is, success in learning isn't just about how hard you work, it's about how well you set yourself up to win. The people who learn the fastest, who develop skills with ease, and who consistently grow, are the ones who deliberately craft an environment that fuels their success. They remove unnecessary distractions, they immerse themselves in the right influences, they create spaces that inspire focus, and they put themselves in situations that force them to level up. They understand that their environment isn't just a background, it's an active force that either propels them forward or keeps them stuck. Think about the last time you felt completely immersed in learning something. Maybe it was a book that pulled you in so deeply that you lost track of time. Maybe it was a conversation with someone who challenged your thinking and opened your mind to new ideas. Maybe it was a moment when you were fully engaged, completely focused, and totally absorbed in what you were doing. That's the power of an optimized environment. It makes learning effortless. It makes progress inevitable. It removes resistance and allows your brain to do what it does best: absorb, adapt, and grow. The problem is, most people don't think about their environment at all. They try to rely on willpower, thinking they just need to try harder, to focus and be consistent. But willpower is weak. It fades, it runs out. And if your environment is constantly working against you, no amount of willpower will be enough. The key to effortless learning is designing an environment that makes success automatic, one that makes it easier to stay focused than to get distracted, easier to take action than to procrastinate, easier to stay motivated than to feel stuck. One of the biggest mistakes people make is surrounding themselves with the wrong influences. If you spend time around people who complain, who make excuses, who have no desire to grow, guess what happens? You absorb that mindset. You adopt their habits. You start seeing the world through their lens. But if you put yourself around people who challenge themselves, who push their limits, who are obsessed with learning and growth, that mindset rubs off on you too. You start to think bigger. You start to raise your standards. You start to operate at a higher level, simply because that's the standard in your environment. It's not just about people, it's also about what you consume. Your mind is a sponge, constantly absorbing the information you expose it to. If you fill your day with distractions, meaningless entertainment, and shallow content, your brain gets used to operating at a surface level. But if you fill your mind with powerful ideas, deep learning, and challenging insights, your brain adapts. It starts making connections. It starts craving knowledge. It starts operating at a higher frequency. The physical space you work in matters too. If your environment is cluttered, chaotic, or filled with distractions, your mind will reflect that. But if you create a space that is clean, organized, and designed for deep work, your brain responds. It gets into focus mode faster. It resists distractions more easily. It becomes a place where learning happens naturally, instead of something you have to force. And then there's the power of immersion. The fastest way to learn anything is to fully surround yourself with it. Want to learn a new language? Immerse yourself in it. Listen to it. Speak it. Read it. Think in it. Want to master a skill? Dive in completely. Make it part of your daily life. Want to develop expertise in a subject? Surround yourself with books, podcasts, conversations and experiences that reinforce it. The more your environment reflects what you want to learn, the faster it becomes a part of you. This is why some people seem to progress at an unbelievable rate. It's not because they have more time, more talent, or more resources. It's because they have structured their environment in a way that forces them to grow. They have made learning inevitable. They have eliminated the friction that slows most people down. They have built a world around them that aligns with their goals instead of working against them. If you want to take your learning to the next level, stop relying on motivation. Stop trying to force yourself to focus in an environment that pulls you away from growth. Instead, take control of your surroundings. Remove distractions. Create spaces that inspire deep work. Surround yourself with people who push you forward. Fill your mind with powerful ideas. Immerse yourself in what you want to master. Make learning so deeply embedded in your environment that it happens automatically. Because the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your environment. If your surroundings are chaotic, if your influences are weak, if your space is filled with distractions, no amount of willpower will save you. But if you build an environment that supports your growth, that reinforces your learning, that makes success easier than failure, you will move forward at a speed you never thought possible. Learning isn't just about effort, it's about design. Set yourself up to win. Craft an environment that fuels your success, and watch how quickly everything changes. Chapter 8. The Power of Consistency Over Perfection. Every single day you have a choice. You can either move forward, even if it's just by one small step, or you can stay exactly where you are. Most people hesitate, waiting for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect burst of motivation. But success doesn't work like that. Learning doesn't work like that. Growth doesn't come from waiting, it comes from showing up, over and over again, even when you don't feel like it, even when progress seems invisible, even when the results aren't immediate. This is the power of consistency over perfection. There's a lie that stops people from ever reaching their potential, the belief that they have to get everything right from the start. They think if they can't do something perfectly, there's no point in doing it at all. They obsess over the details, overanalyze, procrastinate, and eventually they give up before they even start. But here's the truth. Perfection is an illusion. It's a myth. It's a trap that keeps people stuck. The real secret to mastering anything, to learning at a level most people never reach, is to simply keep going, to do the work even when it's messy, to practice even when it's not impressive, to take action even when it's uncomfortable. Think about anyone who has mastered a skill, built something meaningful, or achieved greatness. They didn't wake up one day suddenly at the top of their game. They didn't start as experts. They weren't perfect from day one. They were just relentless. They stayed in the game longer than everyone else. They showed up when others quit. They focused on progress, not perfection. But here's where most people go wrong. They judge themselves too early. They expect instant results. They compare their beginning to someone else's mastery, and when they don't see success right away, they assume they're not good enough. But learning doesn't happen in a single breakthrough moment. It happens in the small, consistent repetitions that compound over time. It happens in the moments when no one is watching, when there's no immediate reward, when it feels like nothing is changing, but something is. Your brain is rewiring, your skills are sharpening, your knowledge is deepening. The biggest enemy of progress is inconsistency. If you study something for 3 hours one day and then ignore it for the next 2 weeks, you'll struggle. If you practice a skill obsessively for a short burst and then drop it because you don't see instant success, you'll never master it. But if you commit to small daily improvements, if you make learning part of your routine, if you show up every single day, even for just a little bit, you will outperform everyone who only moves in short, inconsistent bursts. The secret is in the process. The daily commitment to improvement, no matter how small, the ability to keep going even when you don't feel like it. Because motivation is unreliable. Inspiration fades, but habits, routines and systems, those are what create unstoppable momentum. The people who master anything in life aren't the ones who wait for motivation to strike. They're the ones who build systems that keep them moving forward, no matter what. Think about it like this. Imagine you have two people trying to learn something new. One person studies for hours on random days when they feel motivated. The other person studies for just 30 minutes every day, no matter what. Who do you think will learn faster? The answer is obvious. The person who shows up every single day, because consistency beats intensity every time. The small daily effort compounds into something massive. This is the reason why some people become great at what they do while others stay average. It's not talent, it's not luck. It's the ability to keep going when things get boring, when progress is slow, when results aren't immediate. It's the discipline to do the work even when no one is clapping for you, even when you feel like you're not getting anywhere. Because the truth is, every expert was once a beginner. Every master was once a student, and the only difference between them and everyone else is that they didn't stop. They didn't chase perfection, they chased progress. Most people give up because they don't see results fast enough. They assume if they're not improving at a rapid pace, they're failing. But real learning doesn't work like that. It's not linear. Sometimes it feels like you're stuck in the same place for weeks, even months, and then suddenly everything clicks. The mistake most people make is quitting before that moment ever happens. But those who stay consistent, those who trust the process, those who put in the work even when it feels pointless, they're the ones who break through. One of the most important things you can do for your growth is to fall in love with the process. To stop chasing perfection and instead chase small daily wins. To redefine success not as some massive life-changing breakthrough, but as simply showing up and getting a little bit better than yesterday. When you make consistency your goal instead of perfection, everything changes. You stop getting discouraged by small setbacks. You stop waiting for motivation. You stop worrying about whether or not you're improving fast enough. Because you know that as long as you keep going, progress is inevitable. And the best part, the more consistent you are, the easier it gets. What once felt like a struggle becomes second nature. The resistance fades. The effort becomes automatic. The things that used to feel impossible become effortless, simply because you refuse to quit. That's how mastery is built. Not in a single moment of genius, but in the quiet, relentless effort that no one sees. So if you're waiting for the perfect time to start, stop. If you're waiting to feel ready, stop. If you're telling yourself you'll commit once you have everything figured out, stop. The only way to learn anything is to start now, stay consistent and trust the process. Because success isn't about being perfect, it's about being unstoppable. Chapter 9. Visualization and mental rehearsal for accelerated learning. To learn anything faster and more effectively, you need to tap into the power of your mind. Your brain is an incredible tool, capable of creating new pathways, making connections, and reinforcing the knowledge you want to retain. However, without intentional focus and practice, these mental abilities can stay dormant, leaving your potential untapped. One of the most powerful ways to accelerate your learning process is through visualization and mental rehearsal. You've probably heard people say that imagining yourself succeeding can help you achieve more. But what does that really mean, and how can it be applied to learning? Visualization isn't just about daydreaming, it's a technique that can actually change your brain. When you visualize yourself performing a task, your brain activates the same neural pathways as if you were physically doing the task. It's like your mind practices something without your body moving an inch. This concept is backed by neuroscience and has been proven in countless studies. Imagine you're about to take a test or deliver a presentation. Most people would focus on the content, rehearse it over and over again, and try to memorize the material. While that's important, the real magic happens when you use your mind to rehearse success. Visualize yourself confidently, delivering your ideas, speaking clearly, and engaging with your audience. See yourself handling every question with ease, thinking on your feet, and feeling calm and composed. When you do this, you're training your brain to react in real-life situations, just like you practiced in your mind. Your brain starts to form new connections and strengthen the pathways related to that task. Now, let's take a closer look at how you can incorporate this into your learning. Start by closing your eyes and vividly imagining yourself mastering the subject you want to learn. Visualize yourself understanding difficult concepts with ease, solving problems effortlessly, and feeling a sense of accomplishment. As you mentally rehearse the process of learning and succeeding, you are conditioning your mind for success. Every time you visualize yourself accomplishing your learning goals, you reinforce your ability to achieve them. But visualization isn't just about seeing success. It's about mentally rehearsing every step of the process, including overcoming obstacles and challenges. In fact, some of the most successful athletes and performers use visualization to prepare for setbacks and mental blocks. The mind doesn't just prepare for the victory, it also strengthens your resilience when things don't go as planned. By visualizing how you will overcome difficulties, you program your brain to respond with calmness and determination, rather than stress and frustration. The power of mental rehearsal doesn't stop there. Studies show that athletes who mentally rehearse their performance before an event often perform better than those who don't. This applies to learning as well. When you visualize the process of studying, breaking down complex topics, or mastering a new skill, your brain starts to lay down the mental groundwork necessary for those tasks to feel more intuitive when you're actually doing them. You become more in tune with how the process should unfold, and you develop a sense of familiarity with what you're about to do, making it easier to tackle when the time comes. But there's a catch. Visualization isn't a magic fix. It won't instantly make you an expert in any field. However, when combined with action, it enhances your ability to learn quickly. Think of it as the mental warm-up before the real workout. The more you mentally rehearse a task, the more prepared you'll be when you actually do it. And when you combine this mental training with consistent practice and focused learning, you'll start to see accelerated progress in a way you never thought possible. One of the reasons visualization works so effectively is because it taps into the subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's imagined. This means that when you visualize success, it starts to believe that success is possible. It becomes easier for your brain to adopt new information, process it, and apply it in real-life situations. When you see yourself succeeding in your mind, your subconscious starts to work in alignment with that image, helping you stay focused and motivated to reach your goals. As you continue to practice visualization, you'll notice a shift in your mindset. You'll start to feel more confident, more capable, and more open to the process of learning. The mental blocks that once held you back will begin to fade away. Instead of being afraid of failure or feeling overwhelmed by the challenges, you'll see obstacles as opportunities for growth. With each mental rehearsal, you're preparing yourself to face whatever comes your way with a sense of calm and confidence. But it doesn't stop there. To make the most of visualization, it's important to integrate it into your daily routine. Set aside a few minutes each day to close your eyes, breathe deeply, and mentally rehearse the tasks you need to tackle. Visualize yourself succeeding, learning, and overcoming challenges. See yourself achieving your goals, no matter how big or small they may be. And when you wake up each day, remember that your mind is already working for you. Every time you visualize success, you're conditioning your brain for the outcomes you want. It's also important to remember that visualization works best when it's paired with real-world action. Just thinking about learning something won't make it happen. It's about combining the power of the mind with the effort you put in. Visualization boosts your confidence, sharpens your focus, and helps you perform at a higher level, but it's your consistent action that brings those visions to life. When you take action toward your goals, visualize the process, and keep showing up each day, you create a powerful cycle of progress that propels you towards success. As you continue to incorporate mental rehearsal into your learning routine, you'll notice that your ability to grasp new concepts will improve. Complex topics will start to feel less daunting, and your skills will sharpen faster. By mentally preparing for the challenges ahead, you're mentally rehearsing your way to success, and you're conditioning your brain to work in alignment with your learning goals. The more you visualize, the more effortless learning becomes. You begin to trust yourself and the process, and that confidence becomes your greatest asset. So don't just rely on physical practice, add visualization into your learning strategy. See yourself succeeding, see yourself improving, and see yourself mastering anything you set your mind to. Your brain is waiting for you to take control, and with visualization, you're giving it the guidance it needs to help you reach new heights. Chapter 10. Lifelong Learning. The journey never ends. Learning is not a destination, it's a journey, and not just any journey, but one that lasts a lifetime. Imagine a path that twists and turns, that rises and falls, but every step you take leads you to a new understanding, a new perspective, and a deeper level of mastery. This is the essence of lifelong learning, and it's one of the most powerful mindsets you can adopt to unlock your true potential. The beauty of this journey is that it doesn't have an end. Every skill you learn, every challenge you face, every experience you have becomes a stepping stone to greater heights. The more you commit to learning, the more opportunities open up before you. But the key is recognizing that learning is not something you do for a short period. It's something you do every single day for the rest of your life. As you continue your journey of growth, it's crucial to understand that learning doesn't have to be confined to formal education or structured environments. The real magic happens when you take the lessons you've learned and apply them to every aspect of your life. Whether it's learning to communicate better, gaining new technical skills, or understanding yourself on a deeper level, the pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement becomes a daily practice. Every conversation, every challenge, and every success or failure is an opportunity to grow. But here's the thing, lifelong learning isn't always easy. It requires discipline, resilience, and a commitment to continually push yourself beyond your limits. You will encounter obstacles along the way. Some days you might feel like you're not making progress, like you're stuck in a rut. But that's where the magic lies. The ability to push through those tough moments, to stay committed when things aren't going smoothly, is what separates those who merely go through the motions from those who truly grow. And let me tell you, growth doesn't happen in your comfort zone. It happens when you challenge yourself, when you stretch your limits, and when you're willing to learn from both success and failure. One of the most powerful aspects of lifelong learning is that it allows you to continuously reinvent yourself. Who you were yesterday is not who you have to be tomorrow. With every book you read, every skill you acquire, and every experience you have, you are shaping a new version of yourself. This process of reinvention is what makes life exciting and full of possibility. You are not limited by your past mistakes or by who you used to be. You are constantly evolving, and with that evolution comes the power to achieve things you once thought were impossible. It's easy to get caught up in the idea that learning has an endpoint. We often think that once we master a subject or acquire a particular skill, we're done. But true mastery doesn't come with an expiration date. It's not about reaching a final destination. It's about continuously expanding your knowledge and skills and constantly seeking out new challenges to overcome. This mindset is what drives top performers in every field, whether they are athletes, entrepreneurs, or artists. They understand that there is always something more to learn, always room for improvement, and always a new level of mastery to achieve. The secret to embracing lifelong learning is to make it a daily habit. Learning is not something you do when you feel inspired. It's something you commit to every single day. It doesn't matter if you're reading a book, practicing a new skill, or simply reflecting on your experiences. Every day is an opportunity to learn and grow. The more consistently you embrace this mindset, the more natural it will become, and the faster you will progress toward your goals. But let's be real, sometimes the journey can feel overwhelming. There will be days when you feel like you're not making progress, when the tasks ahead seem too daunting, or when life throws curveballs your way. It's during these moments that your commitment to lifelong learning will be tested. But here's the truth, those tough moments are where the real growth happens. The ability to persevere, to keep going even when things aren't easy, is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. And remember, every step you take, no matter how small, is a step forward. You're never stagnant as long as you keep moving forward, even if it's just a tiny bit at a time. To truly embrace lifelong learning, you need to develop the right mindset. You must see learning not as a task, but as a privilege, not as something you have to do, but as something you get to do. The more you approach each day with this mindset, the more you'll begin to enjoy the process of learning itself. It won't feel like a chore, it will feel like an exciting opportunity to grow, improve, and become a better version of yourself. One of the best ways to stay motivated on this lifelong journey is by setting small, achievable goals. These goals don't have to be grandiose or life-changing right away. In fact, the smaller, more attainable goals you set for yourself, the more likely you are to stay committed. Each time you achieve one of these goals, you will build momentum, and that momentum will carry you to the next one. Over time, these small wins will add up, and before you know it, you'll have made incredible progress. It's also important to remember that learning doesn't happen in a vacuum. The people you surround yourself with play a significant role in your growth. Seek out others who are also committed to learning and improving themselves. These individuals will not only challenge you, but will also inspire you to keep going when the journey feels difficult. Learning is not just an individual pursuit, it's something that's enhanced when shared with others. So as you continue on this journey of lifelong learning, remember that there is no finish line. The pursuit of knowledge and self-improvement is a never-ending process. Embrace the idea that you are constantly evolving and be excited about the possibilities that lie ahead. Every lesson you learn, every challenge you face, and every step you take is an opportunity to become the best version of yourself. Don't wait for the perfect moment to start learning. Start right now, with the knowledge you have and commit to growing every single day. The world is full of opportunities for those who are willing to learn and adapt. If you adopt the mindset of a lifelong learner, you will find that the path ahead is full of endless possibilities. Keep pushing forward,